The night my divorce was finalized, I thought the hardest part of my life was finally over until the next morning, when my boss leaned close enough for me to feel the warmth of her breath and whispered, "Be my husband." That was how it began. It with flowers, not with a confession of love, but with a proposal that sounded more like a secret than a promise. That was how it began. It with flowers, not with a confession of love, but with a proposal that sounded more like a secret than a promise. My name is Henry, and 12 hours before Liza said those words, I was a man who believed he had nothing left to lose. The courtroom had smelled like old paper and colder regrets. And when the judge's gavel struck, it felt less like freedom and more like an echo of failure. I walked out into the rain without an umbrella, letting the storm soak through my suit as if it could wash away 10 years of loving someone who had slowly stopped loving me back. I told myself I was fine. I told myself I was stronger now. But strength is a strange thing. It looks a lot like loneliness when you're standing by yourself. The next morning, I arrived at the office early, hoping work would be my distraction, my anesthetic. Liza was already there. She always was. She stood by the glass window of her corner office, city lights fading behind her as dawn crept in. She didn't turn when I knocked. "You're late," she said softly, though I was 15 minutes early. That was Liza, sharp, composed, intimidating in a way that made investors tremble and competitors retreat. But when she finally faced me, her eyes weren't sharp at all. They were searching. She had built the company from nothing, a self-made CEO with headlines that called her ruthless and brilliant in the same breath. To me, she had always been distant but fair, demanding but strangely protective. When my marriage had started collapsing months ago, she was the one who quietly reduced my workload without making it obvious. When I forgot a major presentation because I'd spent the night arguing at home, she took the blame in front of the board. I thought it was leadership. I thought it was kindness. I never imagined it was something more. "I heard about the divorce," she said, stepping closer. There was no pity in her voice, only something steady, something intentional. I nodded, trying to keep my expression neutral. "I'm fine." She studied me as if I were a contract she was about to sign. "No," she replied, "you're not." And then, without drama, without hesitation, she closed the distance between us and whispered, "Be my husband." I laughed at first. I actually laughed, because the idea felt absurd. I had just failed at marriage, spectacularly. And Liza, me boss, the woman who negotiated million-dollar deals without blinking, was asking me to step into a role I had just proven I couldn't handle. "This isn't a joke, Henry," she said. "I need a husband, and you need a new beginning." The proposal wasn't romantic. It was practical. Her family was pressuring her to settle down. A merger was on the line, and investors preferred stability. A married CEO looked safer than a single one constantly chased by gossip columns. It would be temporary, she clarified. 1 year, a contract, appearances only. It should have been easy to refuse, but there was something in her eyes, something vulnerable she rarely let anyone see. "Why me?" I asked. She didn't hesitate. "Because you're kind," she said. "And you don't lie when it matters." No one had called me kind in a long time. Not my ex-wife, who said kindness wasn't enough. Not my friends, who said I was too forgiving. But Liza said it like it was a strength, not a flaw, against every instinct telling me to run. I agreed. The arrangement was simple: public dinners, family visits, matching rings, separate bedrooms in the penthouse she insisted I move into. We drafted a contract, clear boundaries, no emotional entanglements. And yet, the first crack in the carefully constructed wall appeared the night I found her asleep on the couch, still in her heels, laptop open, a half-finished glass of wine on the table. The powerful CEO looked small in the quiet of the room. I covered her with a blanket. She stirred, whispering my name as if it were a comfort. Days turned into weeks, and our fake marriage began to feel dangerously real. She laughed more around me. I noticed she hated thunderstorms but pretended not to. She noticed I still flinched when my phone was late at night, expecting another argument that would never come. We started cooking together on Sundays badly. She would complain about my chopping skills. I would tease her about burning pasta. The cameras caught our public smiles, but they didn't see the private moments, her hand lingering in mine a second too long. The way she leaned into me during family dinners as if she belonged there. One evening, after a charity gala, she slipped off her heels in the elevator and sighed, exhaustion written across her face. "Do you ever regret it?" she asked quietly. "Marrying me?" I looked at her reflection in the mirror walls. "It's not real," I reminded her gently. She didn't respond, but her silence said everything. The twist came 3 months into our arrangement. I overheard a conversation I was never meant to hear. Liza, speaking to her lawyer, her voice trembling in a way I had never heard before. He can know, she said. If Henry finds out, he'll stay out of pity. I don't want that. My chest tightened. Find out what? I stepped back before I was discovered, guilt and fear mixing in my veins. That night, I confronted her. She tried to deflect, but I refused to let it go. Finally, her composure shattered. Liza, a woman who never cried in boardrooms, broke down in front of me. She had a heart condition, a serious one, the kind that required surgery with uncertain odds. The merger, the marriage, the stability. It wasn't just about investors. It was about securing the company's future in case she didn't survive. I didn't want you tied to a dying woman, she whispered, and in that moment, every boundary, every clause in our contract felt meaningless. I realized something terrifying. I didn't care about the contract anymore. I cared about her, deeply, fiercely. You should have told me, I said, my voice breaking, so you could feel obligated. She shut back. I wanted 1 year of something that felt normal, something that wasn't hospital visits and medical charts. I took her hands in mine, the same hands that signed billion-dollar deals without shaking. Liza, I said softly, I'm not here because I need a new beginning. I'm here because I choose you. The surgery was scheduled 2 months later, and in those 60 days, our fake marriage transformed into something neither of us could pretend away. We stopped sleeping in separate rooms, not because we had to maintain appearances, but because neither of us wanted to face the dark alone. There were nights she would wake up breathless, and I would sit with her until her heartbeat steadied against my chest. There were mornings I would watch her study herself in the mirror, searching for signs of weakness she refused to show the world. We never officially rewrote the contract, but we both knew it had expired the moment love entered the room. The day of the surgery, as they wheeled her away, she squeezed my hand and whispered, "You can still walk away, Henry." I leaned down and kissed her forehead. I already chose my wife, I replied. Hours felt like lifetimes in that waiting room. For the first time since my divorce, I understood what real fear of loss felt like, not the slow fading of love, but the violent possibility of it being taken from you. When the surgeon finally approached, his expression unreadable, my heart nearly stopped, and then he smiled. The surgery had been successful. Complications were minimal. She would need time, but she would live. When I saw her in recovery, pale but breathing steadily, I realized something else too. I had never truly failed at marriage. I had just been with someone who didn't see my heart the way Liza did. Weeks later, as she regained her strength, she handed me a new document, not a contract, a simple marriage certificate application. No clauses, she said softly. No expiration date. I laughed through tears. Are you proposing again? She nodded. This time, it's not business. And standing in that quiet hospital room, with sunlight spilling across her face and no cameras to witness it, I said, yes, not because I needed saving after my divorce, and not because she needed stability for her empire, but because somewhere between whispered deals and silent fears, we had built something real. Sometimes love doesn't arrive with fireworks. Sometimes it begins with a broken man, a guarded woman, and a whisper that changes everything.